Yeah, sorry to take up so much time there. But my name is David Hunter. I am the director at Fort Myers Teen Challenge, and so we're located in Pine Manor. I moved down here with my wife Melissa and our three kids, who are now 11, 7, and 3. We moved down from Minneapolis last March, and so what I like to frequently do from time to time is just ask Siri, "What's the weather like in Minneapolis?" And then I'll send a screenshot to my family just so I can taunt them a little bit and remind them how good we have it down here. But I'll explain a little bit more about how I landed down here. But I'm the director, and my wife Melissa Hunter is the co-director over our women's center at Fort Myers Teen Challenge. So, and this is Andrew. Andrew is
My name is Andrew Higgins. I was a student at Teen Challenge. I graduated after 12 months. I've dedicated another 12 months of my life to being an intern. Um, I'm I'm helping the guys out, volunteering, and getting a little stipend along the way. It's been great. I'm dedicating my life to Christ. I'm from I'm from St. Louis. I used to have a whole my identity was wrapped up in like being a minimum wage laborer after dropping out of college. There's still room. I know God's got some big plans for me. Also, I had identities in a lot of playing video games and a lot of substance abuse and addiction. And biblically, God brought me out of Egypt, and I don't really want to go back to using substances or being addicted. And I love helping other people out and just helping them navigate and find a new way. And why should they be dedicated? And what should we be dedicated to? And why God? Why should we be dedicated to God? And there's just a lot of joy in my heart, and I love being a part of Teen Challenge. It's a great vehicle for bringing people to God, and I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm alive.
My name is Carlos. I'm actually a student still in Teen Challenge Fort Myers. I am working on graduating this month in March. So it's been a long road. God's been a blessing in my life. Moved a lot of mountains for me to get there.
yeah,
And I also plan on staying on for another year to help shepherd the men through their struggles and get them to where they need to be. And it's all glory goes to the man upstairs. Really, he does a lot of good things in the lives that we put.
yeah, yeah. And I'm going to let Carlos share a little bit more about his story as we move on. But it's truly a blessing to be here. And thank you guys for your patience and allowing us a chance to try to set up the screen thing. But for whatever reason, it didn't work out. That's okay too, because we know that God is in charge and He allowed us to be here today. And so, basically just to kind of, how many of you guys have heard of Team Challenge before? Okay, so it should make my job a little bit easier in terms of explaining. But what you'll hear typically about Team Challenge is we're so grateful for what you do for those teenagers. And hindsight, that's somewhat the case. But we at Fort Myers, we work primarily with adults, and so in Fort Myers specifically, we have 18 and up, men and women, but the name Teen Challenge derived from when it first started. So a pastor by the name of Dave Wilkerson, he was a small pastor of a small church in Pennsylvania back in 1958. He was reading Time magazine, and he was reading about a group of teenagers who were on trial for murder in Brooklyn, New York. Now, back then, you didn't have social media, you didn't have Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. So he was actually sitting down reading this article, and while he was reading this article, he felt like God spoke to him and told him to drive to 340 something miles, I believe, drive from Pennsylvania, from a small rural church to Brooklyn, New York, and go in front of the judge and ask the judge if he could get these young men under his tutelage and under his mentorship and basically help them change their lives. Interestingly enough, the judge said no. And so he felt the call so strong to keep coming back that he would come back to Brooklyn, New York. Many times he would sleep in his car in the boroughs, in the neighborhoods, and he would sleep in his car, and then he would kind of soapbox preach and share the love of Christ with the guys. He was made fun of a lot, and then what ended up happening was he kept coming back, and the love that he was exemplifying to these people was so strong that gang leaders, heroin addicts, gang members, and other people in the community started giving their lives to the Lord. And one of the infamous stories is Nikki Cruz, one of the first Teen Challenge graduates, if you will, said, "Don't you know I could cut your body in a million pieces and spread them all over New York?" And Dave Wilkerson is infamous for saying, "Every one of those pieces would still love you anyway." And when he stood in the face of that, this hardened gang member, he's like, "You might be crazier than I am," you know. And that really started to turn the hearts. So that was the onset of what we now know as Teen Challenge. So Teen Challenge is in over 240 centers in the United States and over 1,400 centers across the world in over 140 countries. We are a Christian-based program. We are the longest-running Christian rehab program, if you will. But I always like to say this, that we're not your typical treatment center. Our job, as silly as it sounds, our job is not to just help people get sober, because I believe you can do that anywhere. Our job is truly to help men and women discover who they were created to be, start walking in the purposes and the plans that God has for their life, and to build them up, to send them back out into the community so they can make an impact in their families, in their communities, in their environments, and really be the change that we're all looking for. You know, it's so interesting. We hear about legislation and administrations and, you know, border patrols and further corrections and things that we can do. And all those things are necessary and I believe helpful. But at the end of the day, I personally believe they will never solve the problem. I think what we get to do at Teen Challenge is actually the solution. When you see men and women come into the program who are absolutely lost and they're broken and they're tired and they're down and out and they're desperate, and then something happens and their lives change and they discover this new identity in this relationship with God, and they go back out into their communities and into their families, and they start invoking the change and breaking the generational curses that they came in with. So it's a privilege and an honor to come in. If I could, I would. I'll try. But this is kind of our Teen Challenge family right now. So right now, specifically in Fort Myers, we have enough space for 44 men and for 20. Well, it will be 22. Currently, right now, 16 women. But on Monday, we're opening up a space with 6 more beds for our women's expansion. So we'll be able to take in 22 women in our women's program. Like I said, we're located in Fort Myers. We currently have 12 homes in Pine Manor for our men and 3 homes for our women. So 15 properties altogether, along with a few vacant lots that we're praying about what to do with next. But it really is, it's not your institutional feel. We're not like one central hub where men and women come in. If you were to ever come and get a tour, which we're always open to tours, if you come in and get a tour, you'll see that it's in a residential neighborhood, and it is residential homes that have been purchased over the last 30 years. And you can't miss Teen Challenge, because in the middle of that, I know I've heard Crime Manor, Pine Manor, whatever. It's actually not as bad, I believe, as it used to be. But we're parked exactly where we're supposed to be. But when the men and women come in from wherever they're coming in from, it really feels like home. Part of the coding, actually, a part of being in that neighborhood is that we can't call it commercial. So we have to stay under residential, which means in our homes we have to keep kitchen space. We have living room space. We have those things that some of our students have never had before. They've never experienced a stable home, and so when they come in, they're looking around and like, wait a minute, this is home. For so many of them, they're like, this is my family. As Carlos and Andrew and so many guys allude to, and our ladies, many of them don't want to leave when it's time to go, because they finally discovered a family, a community, and unconditional love. And so I'm going to follow my slides here because I could go on and on. But with that, we have a yearly. So I also have to explain. So in Fort Myers, we are part of a larger region called the Southeast region. So like I said, there's 240 centers in the United States. Our region is the Southeast region, and that ranges all the way up to Kentucky, over to New Mexico, South Carolina, and states underneath. So we have centers in Florida, Georgia. We have a retreat center in Seal, Alabama, Dixon, Kentucky, South Carolina, men's programs, women's programs, and teenage boys and girls programs. I believe 24 locations altogether right now. But in that, we have like a quote of the year and a Bible verse of the year that we all kind of hone in on to keep us unified. And that quote of the year is an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. We firmly believe that we can't get to what God has for us unless we're doing it together. We have to maintain a spirit of unity as we do it. And so the vision essentially is very simple for Teen Challenge, and that's simply this: to put hope within reach. So many men and women come into our program and they're hopeless. They really are. They are convinced that they are going to not only live this way, but that they're going to die this way. And our job is to instill just a little bit of hope in their lives where they can see that there is a possibility for transformation on the other side. Interestingly enough, at Fort Myers, our staff, I'd say, is probably 95% graduates of the program. So our entire staff are graduates, are people who have came in, like literally done the intake, done the admissions, went through the year-long program, came out on the other side, done internships, and are now in a position to give back to other people. The mission is to offer life transformation through Christ-centered programs. I'll just simply say this: our program is Christian-based, and we will never deviate from that. We're always going to be a Christian-based program because we know that Jesus is the one that sets people free. And if I can be honest, we can have a lot of great programming, counseling, opportunities, finances, everything. But at the end of the day, when you have somebody who's been struggling with addiction for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, what is actually going to help them other than something greater than themselves? Most of the guys and girls who come in, they know the lingo. They know what to say. They've been through jail. They've been through the system. And they're still hopeless. And so we set the foundation, if you will, for them to have an encounter with a God who still loves them, who hasn't forgot about them, who's not holding anything against them, and who wants a relationship with them. And when they discover that, things really, really begin to change. Our culture, real quick, are the 3 C's. We don't just believe in telling them what to do, but we are the change. And so even as leaders, we want to exemplify it and go through this process with them. And so that means being humble, vulnerable, transparent, honesty, and letting the students and the staff see, like, hey, look, we're going through a process too. None of us have arrived. We're all a work in progress, and we're all trying to do this thing together. So the 3 C's, real quick, are courageous leadership, continuous improvement, and contagious attitude. How many know attitude is very contagious? You ever hung around someone who has a horrible attitude? It's not very fun, is it? And so we can't expect our students to want to stick around if we're walking around moaning and groaning and mumbling and grumbling and gossiping. And so we just want to be people who are not just telling them how to be, but really trying to live it out the best as possible on a day-to-day basis as well. I had a video here of my testimony. I'll just share really quickly. So I grew up actually in North Minneapolis, kind of the rougher part of Minneapolis, and was born and raised there. I come from a family of addicts and alcoholics. My uncles, 9 of them, were primarily all hustlers, gamblers, alcoholics, drug addicts. The 2 uncles that I had on my mom's side were drug addicts and alcoholics. My cousins, all of us around the same age, were drug addicts and alcoholics. My neighborhood it was embedded in who I was, and the sneaky thing snuck in that I was going to be different. But interestingly enough, slowly I started to gravitate in until one day I looked in the mirror and I was exactly what I did want to become. 18 years of addiction, homelessness, on the streets, drugs, alcohol. I lost my dad to his addiction at the age of, he was 54 in 2006. Cirrhosis of the liver, erosions in his esophagus, feeding him ice chips while he's passing away on his bed. And he says, I'm sorry. And you would think that that would be enough to make me turn away from it. Interestingly enough, it was actually the thing that pushed me further into my addiction. And it came to the point, there were unhealed bowel wounds and things like that. And it came to the point where I had a liter of vodka, I had a shotgun, and I was in a house up north Minnesota in the woods with no running water, no electricity. And I desperately, if I can be honest, wanted to pull the trigger. The rain was falling. I was collecting water in buckets so I could flush the toilet. It was just like, what am I doing here? And I wanted to pull the trigger. And the next day, I got a phone call from my mom and from my uncle. Came back down to the cities, and initially I went to Salvation Army, where I found sobriety. But then I relapsed, and eventually came back into Teen Challenge. That's where I found real hope and real freedom. The things that I was holding against my father, I found forgiveness. I found forgiveness for myself. I started to realize that God wasn't holding things against me. And just want to share with you real quickly, when I came in, my wife, we had a 1-year-old son at the time. She was revving up for divorce. And I came in the program to get my marriage back, but 10 months into the program, I went downtown Minneapolis to sign off on the divorce papers. And the Hennepin County Minneapolis divorce mediator walked in, and he shook his head and he said, Melissa, I've been going over your paperwork, and I don't know if a divorce is what you're looking for. And I could get fired for saying this. And then he starts quoting scripture. And he looks at my wife and he says, how about this? How about I talk to you, I'll talk with David, we'll come back to the table, and we'll see what happens. He met with my wife, he met with me, he met with my wife again, and then they came back in the room. And he's shaking his head, and my wife sits next to me, and she grabs my hand under the table. And I said, what's going on? And he said, you must be one of the luckiest men I've ever met. And all I could do was look up. I said, what are you doing? She said she heard God tell her when she was meeting with the mediator that I was set free, that I was a changed man, and to not get a divorce. And so we went on. We got formal counseling. I was invited back home. I finally came back home after I went to our leadership school, and went back to college, got my bachelor's in pastoral studies. I was a chaplain, campus pastor, director at Teen Challenge up in Minnesota, and eventually moved back down here. But when you see it happen in your own life, like when you know that you didn't do it, but that something else did it for you, what else can you do except want to see it happen for somebody else? And so we committed as a family that we'll go wherever we have to go and do whatever it takes to be a vessel of hope for people who are struggling with the same thing. So, praise the Lord, indeed. I wish you could hear my wife. She'd certainly have another side of the story, and it's cool because that's what we need. So many times we want to figure out how we can make it easier for people who are in addiction. And if I can be quite honest, sometimes we need to actually pray that it gets as bad as it needs to get, so they can finally come to the end of themselves and say, I need help. I can't do this on my own anymore. And that's where we come in and try to offer the help that they're looking for. The solution, real quick, just to kind of recap our program, is it's a 12-month residential program. So we take men and women in from every walk of life imaginable. You do not have to be a Christian to come into the program. We do have Christian-based teachings and curriculum and things of that nature and chapel services, but you don't have to be a Christian. That's not a prerequisite for you to come in and get the help that you need. But we take men and women from all walks of life. We do not bill insurance. We don't bill people. We are 100% privately funded. We don't receive state funding. We don't receive federal funding. We don't receive government funding. Nothing. But it also provides a wonderful opportunity for us to meet people wherever they're at, on the streets, in the parks, in the parking lots, in jail, and say, hey, and they're like, well, I don't have any money. We're like, that's fine, and we can take them in. But hey, we're privately funded, so that brings on a different challenge, obviously. So we rely on partnerships with our community, our churches, businesses, local donors. But interestingly enough, we never go without. God always makes a way. Quite honestly, we always have more than enough. We're always trying to get rid of stuff and give it to the community center and pass things on because we just keep getting poured into. And I kind of think that's how it works when you're in God's wheelhouses. You don't have to worry. There's two phases. There's phase one and phase two. Phase one essentially is just a biblical groundwork, getting people settled in. You know, obviously when you're coming in from wherever you're at and you move in with 35 guys, that's a challenge and a miracle in and of itself. I'm baffled sometimes that the houses haven't burned down and that fights haven't broke out. And, like things are going well, and you got people all working on really deep-rooted issues together, and it's really cool to see. But our goal is to work on life skills, but not only that, root issues. I'm a firm believer that nobody wakes up one day and just says, I cannot wait to be an alcoholic. I can't wait to be a drug addict. I can't wait to lose the respect of my family and get divorced and go to jail. And nobody wakes up and says that. There are deep-rooted issues that happen, things that happen along a person's journey that causes them to believe that coping with drugs and alcohol are best for them, or at least something that can help resolve what it is that they're going through. So we go into deep-rooted issues. We go into things like abandonment, rejection, sexual abuse, integrity, and all these different things that when a person starts to not only discover, hey, maybe that's the reason why I'm actually using, but when they open up to that and they draw into the curriculum that we have, they start to find healing behind it. And the same thing that brought them into the program now is the thing that they can use to start helping somebody else. And that's when it gets really good. Like the things that you used to hide in the closet and be so ashamed of, now you can start to bring to light and say, you know what? Yeah, I used to do that. Yes, I was trapped by that, but that no longer owns me anymore. And now I can use that as a vessel of hope for somebody else. It almost makes you grateful for some of the worst things that you've ever gone through. It's kind of crazy. It's like, wait a minute, I went through that and I'm kind of happy about going through that now because it's useful to somebody else and you find purpose behind it. So, again, 44 men, 16 women, soon to be 22. If you've been in the Fort Myers area, you may have noticed a couple thrift stores with Teen Challenge above it. That is our stores because we are privately funded. Somebody, I don't know who it was, but came up with the bright idea to have a couple thrift stores. And those thrift stores help generate revenue that comes back into the program and make it possible for our men and women to come in and not have to worry about financial difficulties, not being able to pay for the program and things of that nature. If you actually go into the store, you may notice some fine young men and women in there who are working. Those are actually our students who are in the program. They are some of the hardest working men and women you will ever meet in your life. They get up, they go to class in the morning, devotionals, get ready for the day. Then these guys go to class at 7:20 in the morning. Who wants to go to class at 7:20 in the morning? Not me either. They go to class at 7:20 in the morning, and then they go to work for the day, come back, eat, shower up, get ready, and then go to class again, sometimes chapel, local church, services, volunteer opportunities, and they do it day after day after day. And the best part about it is it's not just behavior modification. It literally is a discipline that starts to become who they are. And the prayer is that when they leave the program, which they all have to do eventually, when they leave the program, it becomes so embedded in who they are. Like, man, I got to stay in community. I'm so used to working. I'm so used to reading my Bible. I'm so used to these things that even if they start to drift away from it, they recognize that something's wrong and they need to get back on track. A cool part about Teen Challenge on a national level is those who have graduated our long-term program. A national study was done. 78% of the men and women who graduate our long-term program 6 months later are still not only in sobriety, but are walking in recovery and purpose in their community. And if you know anything about the recidivism rate in treatment centers, it is actually flipped. There's probably about 20 to maybe 30% of individuals that go into treatment centers actually maintain long-term sobriety. So we know that something's happening, and it's tried and true because we've been around for 60 years. So yeah, if you ever go into the thrift stores, please know that your donations are going directly to the men and women who are currently in our program. If you ever need something picked up, our box trucks will come out and grab it wherever you're at. And if you notice some fine-looking men and women in the box trucks, primarily men, yeah. No, we don't put our ladies, but those are also men and women in our program as well. So just a little caveat: Fort Myers Teen Challenge, we cover everything up to Sarasota, over to Vero Beach, and anything underneath that. That is Fort Myers territory. We have a lot of work to do. When I came down from Minnesota and they told me that, I'm like, excuse me? So you mean Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Sarasota? Like, so I've created a strategic development plan and a plan just to like try to tackle and meet with people of that area. So thank you so much for having us out today. I did want to allow Carlos to share briefly because since he's about to graduate next month, share his testimony, just kind of what's happening in his life, and then what Q&A, and we'll get out of here. We'll be done.
So my name is Carlos Cruz. I'm 35 years old. I'm originally from Long Island, New York. I grew up and born and raised there. Moved down to Florida when I was 15. I reside in Broward County. That's where my family is now. I'm the oldest of six, so I spent a lot of time raising kids. But the one thing is, I was born switch up. My mom was 15 when she had it, and my father was never around. So that kind of had a lot of toll on me. So when we moved down to Florida after graduating high school, I left home and I joined the military. So I am part of the military. I joined the Army. I was part of the 10th Cav Division 217 ASB. So yeah, thank you. I was aviation infantry. So I was attached to an infantry unit, part of the down there infantry unit. I saw 2 tours in Afghanistan. When I was 19 with my first tour and 21 my second tour. So I was still very young. And that had a lot of toll on my life too. And I got back after my second tour and I started spiraling. Alcoholism really picked up, a lot of drug abuse. I ended up actually getting discharged from the military, and I did 8 months in the military break because of the failure analysis that they were trying to get me on sales of drugs. And I'm not gonna lie to be truthful with what I was doing, And it actually came back to get me. I ended up having to do some time. Came back home to Florida after I did that time. I ended up with a general discharge, which was a blessing in itself. They say God was good to do it all the way. He really was, And I ended up coming back to Florida, and I just didn't learn my lesson. I started messing around with the wrong people. I got involved with the wrong people. I probably incarcerated more than I spent on the free world. I ended up having to do another term in prison. I did a year in Warhaven, and after that year, I kind of just went into that relationship. So it wasn't even just drugs and alcohol anymore. Now it was just that relationship after that relationship. Started really stealing from my family, doing a lot of negative things that weren't of a righteous living style. And a lot of people say the devil had his grip on me. Yeah, and his chain was tight. And I ended up actually in the last year, 2025, I attempted suicide 4 times. Exactly 4 times. I had a bad relationship where there was a couple things that happened, and I ended up breaking up with her and met a girl and got her pregnant and ended up having a son. So my son now is 2 years old, but I haven't seen him since September 2025. And that's because I wasn't in the right state. And his mom took off with him to North Carolina. There's nobody else to blame but myself for that. And God saw that, so I believe now that I actually had Teen Challenge, I'm actually able to say that there was a purpose behind it. You know, God wants me to be a good father, and He gave me an opportunity by bringing me here. But I didn't know that then. And in March of 2025, I had an accidental overdose. I ended up dying. I was flatline clinically dead for about 8 minutes. Took 9 shots of Narcan back away. And in that darkness, I ended up hearing, how many more of this can you do? And I told Pastor Dave the story today. How many more of this can you do to yourself, Carlos? And I woke up. And I felt the presence of the Lord in that room. And I remember just seeing my pastor there with my mom. The face that my mom had, just, I never want to see it. It was destructive to just see her like that. I never want to see it. And they told me I wouldn't be able to walk, that I was going to have a really bad struggle. 4 days later, I got out of that bed and walked. And it turned my life around. You know, by the glory of God, I'm able to understand what my purpose is. You know, Jeremiah 29:11 says that all the plans that I have for you are not for destruction and perish, but that's future and hope. And that's what Teen Challenge does. It brings hope. You know, we have a saying that, what is it, Andrew? We wear on the back of our shirts.
Put hope within reach.
Putting hope within reach. And you know, it may seem far at times, and it did for me, but now that I'm here, I can't really do anything else but seek God's will. And I seek Him daily. I pray for things. I pray for understanding. I know I can trust Him that He can render and reconciliate my relationship with my son. And I know that my family, they're there every week, every Sunday, they're there worshiping with us. They give all glory to God.
His family actually leads worship on our graduation day.
Yeah, my family's awesome. My little sister, 12 years old, is up there praising and worshiping. You know, and it's great to see that is reality of life. That is truth. That is happiness. That is what the truth of the Spirit are. And for me, now that I'm coming up to a point, you know, I was blessed to be able to graduate this month coming up in March. I plan on doing an internship. Because why be selfish with what God has given? Why not pour it out into the Spirit? The guys coming up, you know, why not teach them that they're not alone in their suffering? They're not by themselves. And that's all I ever thought I was alone. I thought I was in darkness by myself. But God gave me light, and Teen Challenge helped me see that. And you know, I truly believe that this is a foundation of truth, a foundation of life, and that if you really focus in and hone in on not the work, but what it has to offer behind that, it really works. And you know, I can't be more grateful to God for bringing me here. Thank you for letting me share.
What a testimony.
No, it chokes me up. It never fails, because to think about so many young men and women who have ended up in these situations, but sadly haven't made it out. Like the plans and the futures and the families and all these things that were destroyed because of a person's inability to get out of addiction. I've lost count. Honestly, I've lost count of the young people that I've had to go see in the hospital, funerals I've officiated, and just it's really sad. But the blessing I believe behind it is, with the overdoses and the fentanyl epidemic, is that it's causing young people to come in and seek help in a way that we've never seen. We have 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds who are like, I don't want to just stop getting high. I don't want to die. And I know if I don't get the help that I need, I'm going to end up losing my life. But the cool part is they're not married. Many of them don't have kids. You know, they don't have a long-standing years and years of chaos and wreckage and pain and suffering. So I'm like, man, if you can get it early and now, you're going to be a game changer forever. So, and here Carlos is standing in front of us. I mean, I couldn't even imagine what life would have been like for his family, and even for us at Teen Challenge, had he not made it through that overdose. So this is what you're contributing to. There's many ways to get involved. We're looking for volunteers. Obviously, there's financial needs. Every dollar that we receive goes directly towards the men and women who are in the program. Yes, you can look at the QR code on the back.
You can scan this.
Yes, and that will bring you to our website. different ways to get involved, explain our region, who we are. I should say that we also are having a golf tournament on May 15th at Shell Point Country Club. May 15th, yep, at Shell Point. It won't be on there, but I can share the information with you. Yep, I'll certainly share it with you. We're starting that this year, my wife and I, and so please pray for us because you know how it is when you launch new things, your hair kind of falls out and then it grows back later, but we'll be okay. But the golf tournament at Shell Point Country Club on May 15th, and again, everything we do is to generate support for the men and women who are currently in the program and who are coming to the program later. So, and then obviously just please keep us in prayer. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart because I know that everything we do, if it's not rooted in prayer, it won't last. And so we need to stay rooted in prayer. And so you guys covering us in prayer, covering Carlos, our program, Andrew, is so important, so helpful, and it means a lot to us as well. So thank you guys for having us. We really appreciate it. Sorry about the technical difficulties and all that stuff.
No, they don't want me to do it first. If you get any help with the Warrior Golf Tournament, see those two beautiful looking.
Yeah, but
Yeah, they are amazing. They're amazing resources.
Okay.
So do you all have time to see it? Is there any?
Yeah.
Question, but I just didn't know anything else.
Well, I have a
Quick one.
Okay.
Yeah.
With having 5 different homes and that, how do you ensure that drugs and alcohol and substances isn't brought into those homes?
Yes. So searching, inspecting is dorm searches, urine analysis, drug screening. We do it all the time. So even the dynamic of men and women going out to the stores, when they come come back, we search them head to toe, pockets empty. But I will also say this. I think one of the best parts about it is the culture that we have and the culture that we've developed. People are of the understanding there that we don't play that game. And so if you want to do that, you can go somewhere else because most likely if you bring something in that shouldn't be there, you ain't got to worry about the staff. It's the brotherhood and the sisterhood that's going to call you out and kind of take care of that situation. So, yeah.
Also, I know, we're talking a lot about God and Jesus, but we truly believe that the Spirit will point it out too. Yeah, there's no line in the position, no dissension, no convictions. You've got things where the Spirit has pointed it out and found.
Okay, quick story, just real quick. So I got to say, I'm sorry, because this is how good it gets, and I get excited about this stuff. Because again, it's not like just running a good program, right? It's about heart transformation. I had a guy recently, he just graduated Sunday. He came into my office. Don't tell him I said this out loud, but it's okay. He'd probably be okay with it. Anyways, he comes to my office. Well, actually, I got a call from his mentor. You just love on people. You say, man, I love you. I see the gold in you. And you just keep loving on them. And eventually a person, they can't stand in the face of real love and not change. And so I was loving on him one day, and his mentor calls me, and he says, hey, man, I need you to come back and talk to Jamar is his name. Come back and talk to Jamar. You'll understand when you get back. And I get back, and Jamar comes into my office, and he's a train wreck. He's crying. He's weeping. I'm like, what's going on? He said, I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. I'm sick and tired of it. I say, what's wrong? He goes in his pocket. He pulls out $120 that he had taken from tips at the store or on the truck, and he had put this money in his pocket. And he says, I'm sick of it. I've been up all night. I couldn't sleep. I was staring out the window. I'm like, I want to change, but I'm not changing, and I'm doing this, but I'm looking at you, and I'm lying to you, and you love me so much, and I can't take it anymore. I don't want to do this. I don't want to live like this anymore. And I'm like, okay. He's like, so I'm ready for whatever punishment you have, and I'm willing to take whatever consequence, and I'll do whatever it takes. So what are we going to do? I'm like, I think we already did enough. Because you have conviction.
Circumcision in the heart.
You're not okay doing what you used to do anymore.
Okay.
You were up all night, bawling your eyes out. You called me and asked me to come so you could confess. That's what I'm talking about.
Amen.
And he's looking at me like I lost my mind. Because I'm like, you got it. You finally got it. praise be to God, he just graduated on Sunday. He's working at our store now. So,
Amen.
yeah. So if you see him at the store, don't say, "Hey, you're the dog." Another question? Yes.
Yeah, no, I have a comment. We work in real estate and every now and again we get a property that is just, full of stuff that was left behind. And I was struggling. We had a property up in, Northport and, some organizations want to just, well, I'll come and get the couch or I'll come and get this or come. And I'm like, no, dude, I need you to take all of it. And, I couldn't get there. And I finally got a hold of Teen Challenge, and I'm like, I know it's going to be tough, but you just make sure you take everything. Oh, no, we'd love to, The house was, 100% of everything cleaned out like they said they would. They called me when they got there, called me when they left. I think somebody even followed up the following day. And this is my third time that we've used Teen Challenge for that.
Very cool. Thank you.
Makes it easy for us.
Yeah.
And it's really great for.
Thank you for sharing that.
How long is graduation? Is it like a standard time or is it like a floating time frame?
Yep. So graduations are on Sundays, the last Sunday of each month. They're at the center, so we have a chapel on site at our center. We were packed out last Sunday. We had probably well over 120 people there. But we hold it on site. Technically, it starts at 9 a.m. because we have what's called our Family Day teaching. This is another thing that we do really well is we incorporate the families. It's one thing to get the person well, but if the family's not well and you send them back to an unhealthy family, their propensity of staying healthy goes way down. So we have what's called Family Day teachings where we go over things like boundaries, communication, things of that nature. So anyways, it starts at 9, but the actual graduation itself is at 10 a.m. Typically, we're done by 11:30. Then we have an in-house lunch. Families invited to stay, community. But we invite community to come too. It's better, no bias. It's better than any church service you'll ever come to. Because when you see a man and woman standing up there who has been completely transformed, you see the mugshot, you see the transformation, and then you see this beautiful king or queen standing before you, excited and filled with hope about their future. There's nothing like it. So, yeah, if you ever want to come and join us, well, yeah. Also have bell nights on Friday nights that are open to the community as well.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So on behalf of the Rotary Club of Lehigh, so I present this to you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
And that's for you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Man, what are we paying for? Come on.
What are we paying you for?
Not enough.